are unhappy with what is going on right now. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice someone's given me, is that when you are going through a tough time, if you were to remove that from your life, how would it make you feel? And the answer was a hell of a lot better. The weight would be taken from the shoulders. Now, I know that's not easy with a lot of the things that we go through, but you are unhappy with what is going on right now. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice someone's given me, is that when you are going through a tough time, if you were to remove that from your life, how would it make you feel? And the answer was a hell of a lot better. The weight would be taken from the shoulders. Now, I know that's not easy with a lot of the things that we go through, but
the fact that the success of yourself and your ability to help others is what inspires you.
I remember I did a challenge once and I was suffering an inordinate amount of pain.
And you've put yourself in that environment to feel the pain, embrace that pain, and get to the places where others would not be able to get to.
And it is the best saying ever. Genuinely, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, because you learn from those experiences, and to be more mindful of the people that you surround yourself with.
It's about leaving a legacy, you know, and it's understandable. How do you leave a legacy behind that's bigger than you? And I think for me as an individual is seeing greatness in people and being able to push them and propel them along to success.
Life is about balance. I'm not one of those who just keeps it simple 24/7, but at the same time, if I want to show myself the respect, show you the respect, the process, the respect that it deserves, then sometimes we have to be slightly more resilient to those sorts of things in order to achieve the continuity.
Welcome to the Winning Mindset Podcast. My name's Wale Adesomoye, your host. I'm a 5-time bodybuilding world champion. I've travelled the world and trained with some of the best athletes on the planet. I'm my big brother, Mr. Michael O'Hearn. Also, my TV show, Last Man Standing. Travelled the world for a year, living with some of the toughest tribes on the planet to participate on their tribal sports. I'm also a London firefighter for the past 24 years. I am here with none other than Mr. Joshua Patterson. For the audience, please introduce yourself for those that don't know who you are and what you're about, because your story is absolutely insane, my brother.
As usual, man, your energy is undefeated. What an intro.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, just about myself. So I would say some would probably perceive me as kind of like an extreme ultra athlete. You know, I very much have focused the past number of years on breaking and setting world records and kind of doing the things that no man or woman or child have ever done before, you know. I think that's where I get my kicks from, is just kind of going into the unknown and bringing a team of the most exceptional people along with me and us facing it together, because I think it just makes the outcome even more rewarding.
It's amazing. I mean, saying what you said, you know, and I've got a set of questions here in front of me. Normally, I normally follow a script when it comes to these sort of podcasts, but I'm going to actually chuck that to the side. I'm going to refer back to some of those questions, but I want to start off with 76 marathon, 76 cities, 76 days. Wow.
Yeah.
Like I always say, every time I say this, is you can only understand that, how difficult that is as a challenge if you've run one marathon, let alone running 76 in 76 cities in 76 days. So please, just talk me through that specific challenge, because that challenge to me is just on another level.
Yeah, I mean, it was exceptional. You know, I took up running just under 4 years ago, or around the 4-year mark. So I mean, running is a sport that's relatively new to me, but I'd kind of exposed myself to various different challenges leading up to that 76. I feel like every one of those was very much kind of like an education, kind of priming me for that big monumental one. And You know, it was unique in so many different ways, but I think weirdly it was probably the best physically I had ever come out of any challenge. Normally I am completely broken and half the size I ordinarily would be, but I think just the approach to this particular challenge was very different. The team that we brought on board and how I primed myself, I think the approach that we took every single day when running the marathons, prioritizing the recovery post each marathon, you know, just the mindset that went into it. I mean, it was phenomenal, but I think for me it was probably the most peaceful I've ever been. I know to some they might see that as quite an intense environment to be in, but I think just with the lessons that had been learned over the years, I just knew how to approach each day. And I think also it was a dream that I had thought of many years ago and almost given up on, so to be able to fulfill it for me, I think I just was filled full of gratitude.
Yeah, you touched on mindset there. You know, can you just kind of explain to the audience listening how important that sort of positive mindset was for you to actually overcome the challenges that lied ahead? Because you set the challenge out, and a lot of people that set out challenges don't always complete them. So for you to actually set up a challenge and complete it, you know, what sort of mindset, what sort of mindset frame was you in to be able to actually set out a challenge, plan the challenge, put the right team together and complete the challenge? How did you get to that mindset, that sort of, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it's understanding and empathy, right? My big goal in life is to change the world that we live in and to improve as many people's mental health as I possibly can. You know, that's my biggest why, is that, you know, I've come from the point of contemplating and almost, you know, fulfilling, I guess, suicide itself. And I feel very grateful that I didn't go ahead with it, and I almost have this second chance at life. I also come from a very privileged background, so the resources were there to support me when needed to get through it. There's a lot of people out there that don't have that, and so it's my responsibility to utilize the platform I have and my voice to try and support, help and heal as many people as I possibly can. And so, you know, when you go into these challenges, there's a real purpose to it. And especially with this one, I was trying to raise money for Samaritans, which, you know, they offer, you know, support, you know, 24/7. And, you know, ultimately, when you are going through these tough times, you have reflection on how much tougher it really was. And knowing that there are people out there that are physically and mentally at breaking point, you know, what I had to remind myself of when I'm in the thick of this is that I am suffering, but it's momentary. It's a momentary pain, but the feeling of regret, had I ever given up, would last a lifetime. And it's just that reminder, you know, if I'm trying to inspire somebody to fight and push on when they're at a point of wanting to give up, what message does that send them if I give up myself?
It's interesting because I think, like, you know, you touched on something that I knew nothing about there in regards to contemplating suicide and how important that is. And in us as men, you know, there's a lot of thoughts that crosses our mind, and, you know, it's something that, you know, I wasn't fully aware of. So for someone out there who may be listening to this podcast, who's just thinking their life is over and they're just thinking it might be best for them to end their lives, what advice can you give them? Because you've been down that road, and I want to touch on that without actually just going away from what you mentioned there in regards to contemplating suicide.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that you just, situationally, you are unhappy with what is going on right now. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice someone's given me, is that when you are going through a tough time, if you were to remove that from your life, how would it make you feel? And the answer was a hell of a lot better. The weight would be taken from the shoulders. Now, I know that's not easy with a lot of the things that we go through, but it does help you process it. You know, in that moment in time when things are at their toughest, it feels like there is no way out, that there is no reason to live, you have no purpose, no one cares for you, when in reality it's just not the case. It's just situationally at that time, that's how it feels. There is a world out there of opportunity. There are people that will deeply love and care for you. You do have purpose. You wouldn't be on this earth if you didn't. It's just about finding it. And I think that's the problem, is a lot of people go through life and they are not lucky enough to find out what that is.
Yeah, I think, you know, another thing that I think is important is to kind of take a step back and look at your overall network of friends and people you know? You know, like the way we met in a gym, you know, the gym that we go to. I knew who you were from the TV show, you know, Made in Chelsea, but, you know, obviously we met in a gym and we spoke on occasionally. We become closer over the last sort of several months due to working together. But I think one of the most important things to get out there is that you're not alone. You know, the thoughts that are going through your head, you're not the only one thinking of those thoughts. And if you reach out for help, and as men, we're very skeptical in regards to reaching out for help. And what did you do that helped you overcome your thought process when you was going through the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I mean, it's understanding that hardships, adversity are inevitable in life. It doesn't necessarily get easier, but I feel like the way that you process it can improve, right? Because it's repetitive. I think surrounding yourself with the right people is so important, you know, just absorbing that understanding, the knowledge and the influence that they can have on you, because equally there are people that are faced with different hardships and you can learn from how they've approached it. You know, it's a case of like trial and error. And you know, for me personally, Bud, you know, my adversity and traumas have broken me so many times to the point now where I physically don't feel like I can be broken. And that's become my superpower. You know, that's what enables me to push on through the tough times and to certainly celebrate the good. And, you know, my message, my ambitions are to try and connect with as many people as I possibly can, because even with the work that I do, although we're very successful in terms of the impact we're having, there are still people taking their own life every single day. And that's something that I struggle to accept, because that person didn't see a way out. That person has now lost the opportunity to become a parent, to be acknowledged for the incredible work that they've done, to find love. And I just feel like everyone in life deserves to have those things. And so, as I said, having come from that privileged background and having lived those moments myself, you know, my ambitions in life are not to be wealthy, to have materialistic things. That's the furthest thing from it. I think they're pointless, to be honest with you. For me, it's about being fulfilled and to make others feel fulfilled and to feel validated for the incredible things that they do. You know, everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a story to tell. I think it's just giving them the opportunity and the voice to share it.
It's interesting what you said. You've mentioned on 3 occasions, you know, coming from a privileged background, and you've acknowledged that. A lot of people that come from privileged backgrounds don't acknowledge the privileged background that they come from. And do you think that coming from a privileged background to start off with has allowed you to be able to propel yourself in other aspects of ways that others may not have that connection or that ability to propel themselves to the destination or the trajectory they want to go on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think we have to acknowledge our roots. We're not questioned for what we have. We're questioned for what we do with it. I come from privilege. Some will criticize me for that. That's absolutely fine. That's, you know, that's their right. But I use that to help other people. I feel blessed for the opportunities I've had. When I talk about privilege, a person's ideology of what privilege can be an abundance of things. Some might just look at the monetary value.
Yeah.
You know, it's a privilege to have 2 loving parents. It's a privilege to be supported by 2 parents. It's a privilege to be exposed to the specialists out there that can help you feel and think in a different way. Not everyone's blessed with those opportunities. And so that, like I said, that for me is my priority, to try and enable as many people to have those same opportunities that I've had in life. You know, privilege as well, I'll be honest with you, Bud, can be a curse. You know, I've seen 2 ends of the spectrum. Where I'm very blessed is that people could make a snap judgment about privilege and say, life's easy for you, you come from money. My family is self-made. You know, my mum comes from a good family, but has never benefited from that family because she committed to my father, who came from Northern Ireland, from absolute poverty. We're talking like five siblings sharing a single bed. You know, we're talking as young as 10 years of age, going out there trying to earn money to put food on the table to support the family. And so I have a very I think realistic exposure to the both ends of the spectrums, you know, in terms of from privilege and not. And I think that's been my greatest asset, where I can be incredibly grateful for the things that I have. Whereas on the flip side, when we talk about privilege where you are potentially within this bubble, you know, people think that having materialistic possessions and having all this money makes life easier and happier. I can tell you now, it doesn't. It really doesn't. I think if you commit your life to investing in people, you will forever be fulfilled, because there's always somebody out there with a different form of adversity or a story to be told. You know as well as I do, when it comes to materialism and money, when you get to the point, if you earn money, you want to earn more money. When it comes to materialistic possessions, how long does it take until we get bored of them? Like these clothes we're wearing on our backs right now, when we first bought them, we felt the dog's bollocks. How many times do we wear them before we feel like we need the next outfit to feel fresh again?
Once or twice, 3 times maybe.
You know, so it's just like altering the mindset. Yeah. And so, you know, I feel very blessed to be in the position I'm in right now.
You're such an inspiring individual, and I think, you know, this quote comes to mind when I think about you. I think pressure is a privilege. The pressure that you put yourself under in itself is a privilege. Taking away the monetary things and thinking about things, and you talk about the fact that the success of yourself and your ability to help others is what inspires you. So what has pursued you to your path to succeed in your particular field of what you're actually doing right now, and your passion to help as many people as possible?
Yeah, like I said, it is purely just to help as many people as possible. And it's interesting what you were saying there about, you know, privilege. I remember I did a challenge once, and I was suffering an inordinate amount of pain. I had to do 60 miles in a wheelchair. This is one of my challenges. I was doing John O'Groats to Land's End. It took me 19 days, but this particular day we had to do 60 miles just because we had to make some tracks, because the prior day wasn't particularly great and we had fallen behind on our distance. It got to the point where I was hallucinating, I was getting full body convulsions, fitting on the side, all my muscles were cramping up, and I just couldn't stop complaining. I just didn't want to suffer any more pain. And Chris King, the group leader at that point, just turns to me and goes, "Shut the fuck up." I said, "What do you mean?" He went, "Shut the fuck up and keep pushing." And I said, "I can't push. I'm done. Like I'm suffering too much." And he said, "What you don't understand is pain is a privilege." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Pain is a privilege. No one on earth thinks that way." He said, "Tell me, did that pain just come to you naturally?" I said, "No, like we've obviously been in a wheelchair for 50 something miles." He went, "Exactly. You fucking earned it. So enjoy it, embrace it. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It's taken you to get to this point to get there. Yeah. Pain is privilege." And it was so weird where whenever I do my challenges now, and I am suffering the same amount of pain, it is weird when you alter that mindset where I'm like, "I fucking earned this." And for some reason, that transition in mindset just alters the way that you view and feel it.
Yeah, it's everything in life. I mean, it's an analogy that I will always use is when it comes to resistance training. You know, when someone says, "I can't do a particular weight," so as soon as you say to yourself, you cannot do something, you're shutting up your brain to be able to actually think, how can I do that? Rather than telling yourself you can't do something. In all honesty, pain is a privilege. And you've put yourself in that environment to feel the pain, embrace that pain, and get to the places where others would not be able to get to. Because one of the most important things is you got to understand that if pain wasn't a privilege and success was very easy, everyone would be successful, everyone would be in shape, everyone would be eating clean. The fact of the discipline of eating well, training, and disciplining yourself to do things is very, very hard, and changing your lifestyle. So I think these are some of the challenges that you faced along the way, and some of the obstacles you faced. What other obstacles have you faced, like in business or personal life, that you've overcome, other than this wheelchair challenge you've done?
I mean, you know, I feel like I've ticked many boxes on that side of things, and that's not a comparison thing of I've done more. It's, you know, heartbreak. You know, the mother of my child and I broke up, and that's an incredibly hard thing. I came from a broken home, and the one dream I had in life was that my family would stay whole, and I wasn't able to fulfill that. And that's a really hard thing when your child is as young as they are, knowing that you can't give that to them. But then I look back now and the position my child is in, and the two homes that she lives in, and she is the happiest little thing. And I've come to realize, like, you don't need these things. I think we worry too much about what the future has in store. Really, we just need to focus on the present. You can control that narrative. I set a business up, a sports brand for women. It was doing well, and then I put all my money into the next season, my summer range, and the manufacturer person who I was very close to got done for fraud, 1.56 million, and every penny I put into that business was lost, and so the company collapsed. And so something that my sister and I had worked so tirelessly hard on came to an end literally with the click of a finger. And that was a hard pill to swallow, because when these lessons arrive in life, it being self-inflicted is one thing, but when it's dictated to by somebody else, that makes it even harder. And also the lack of trust in those individuals. When it comes to people in your life, an agency that I was signed with and was very close to, they were like family. They came to my daughter's christening. They owe me tens of thousands. And I would have trusted these individuals with anything. What I come to realize, bud, is that when you are exposed to these things at the time, they are the hardest things to deal with. But on reflection, like I said to you, they break you, they leave a mark. But it's something that eventually I think you feel incredibly proud of, that you were able to overcome it. And I think it does. It prepares you for life, and I think it makes you more resilient and more determined to get past those hurdles. And when you do, that's when the successes come.
It's interesting what you're talking about, because I think a lot of the people that go through life have not really faced much challenges. And that's why life in general, people are as weak and as soft as fuck, excuse my language, because the journey that you go through teaches you a lesson, and it's important that you learn something from that journey, because of the fact that you think, well, I've done this didn't work, or this happened to me, well, I'm not going to do that again. Teaches you a lesson. And how you become successful is learning those lessons firsthand. From my perspective of view in regards to your business that you had with your sister and losing almost 1.5 million.
No, we didn't lose 1.5. So in total,
yeah.
when she was done for fraud, they had essentially stolen 1.5 million. So our money, we lost again tens of thousands into that, because we were a startup. But nonetheless, it was just not myself, but all the other people that they clearly had taken money from. It just how many businesses had collapsed because of a single person's actions.
So it's obviously losing money through working with agencies, losing money through investments itself. What has that journey taught you about success and failure?
That life is not fair. That it's inevitable, as I said, that you are going to face it. And it is the best saying ever, genuinely, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, because you learn from those experiences, and to be more mindful of the people that you surround yourself with. I'm so particular now about who I allow into my circle. Very, very particular. Accolades are a small part of what it takes to be in my group. It's the character of the person, in all honesty. When I look at somebody like yourself, you're a 5-time world champ. That's a small part of why I brought you on board to train me. What I liked about you is that for a very big man with a big character, you don't walk around the gym with an ego. You have time for everyone. If somebody's struggling to lift a bench up, even if they're 40 feet away, you run over and you support them. You've got a good heart, and that's the kind of nature that I want to be around me. It's the fact that we can laugh and smile and enjoy our training. And yes, although it's painful and we do suffer at times, there's a healthy balance, because it's not, too often I see people in the gym, we see these personas on social media where it's all about killing yourself off in order to reach these goals. I have no interest in that. My life is stressful enough as it is. I don't want to go to the gym, which I love, and not enjoy the sessions that I'm doing. And so you bring a very healthy balance. It's how methodical you are with the approach that you take. You don't cut corners. And that's really important to me too, because unfortunately in life we are faced with hurdles. And if we just keep skipping those hurdles out, it makes the journey too easy.
Yes.
The journey doesn't need need to be easy. It needs to be tough, because I tell you what, the tougher it is, the more fulfilling the success is at the end.
I mean, I love what you just said, and I want to say thank you for the compliment you paid. But I think, like, for me, when I'm in the gym, I'm in the best environment that I could ever be in. You know, I'm at my happiest when I'm in the gym. There's no negative thoughts or negative thought pattern that enters my mind. You know, if I come into the gym with 1,001 things on my mind when I'm working out, you know, imagine you got 60 kilogram dumbbells underneath your, you know, lifting those 60s, 260s, you can't be thinking, what did she say to me yesterday? Or what did he say to me yesterday? You know, your thoughts are clear. And I really do want to help as many people as possible through my business as well. And I want to make sure that people are successful and see greatness within themselves. And I think it's important that it's about leaving a legacy. You know, and it's understandable. How do you leave a legacy behind that's bigger than you? And I think for me as an individual is seeing greatness in people and being able to push them and propel them along to success. And I mean, you're a great ambassador of that, of what you're doing, because like I keep going back to your marathon run and I just can't believe you did that. Like, I still can't believe you did that. You know, that's just an unbelievable accomplishment itself. And, you know, I just think you don't give yourself enough credit for all the stuff that you've done. I want you to be a bit more like, this is me, this is what I've done, this is what I can do, and I love it. I love the fact that you've brought me on board to work with you, and I really do appreciate working with you. We've got some amazing results from working together, and I think our best is still yet to come. What daily habits do you have that's helped you to success?
Number one, I think, is communication. It's talking to the right people.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a case of getting reassurance, but I think it's just those reminders. I think just everyone can be a teacher, and I think it's learning from as many people as you possibly can. I think sometimes things have got to be non-negotiable, whatever that might be for you. For me, it's just about that mindset, you know, cold plunging. You know, I know for some it seems a bit of a fad, but, you know, the reality is I don't want to get into a 7-degree cold tub, but the benefits that I get from it with my training and my mental health are unbelievable. Therefore, I must commit to something like that. Things like your diet, the nutritional side of things. Sometimes we can allow ourselves to eat certain things, but probably at the wrong time. Life is about balance. I'm not one of those who just keeps it simple 24/7, but at the same time, if I want to show myself the respect, show you the respect, the process, the respect that it deserves, then sometimes we have to be slightly more resilient to those sorts of things in order to achieve the continuity, right, that's in place. Because sometimes I feel like the decisions we make, although we can justify it in our heads that we deserve it, it can kind of slow the process down. And I think when you set yourself a goal, how long do you want it to take to reach it? And that's not me saying rush it. That's me just saying don't add extra time to it.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things I can take away from that is when you have a goal in mind that you want to achieve something, if you say to yourself, I'm going to give myself 6 months to do this, guess what? It's going to take you 6 months. If you say to yourself, I'm going to give myself 3 months to do this, guess what? It's going to take you 3 months. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to do this in half that time, maybe you might say, instead of saying 12 weeks, I want to be here in 6 weeks, or as close to that in 6 weeks as possible. So setting realistic goals at the same time, though, because if you're coming from a place of someone who, for example, who's never run a marathon before, and you say you want to run your first marathon with only 6 weeks of training, may not be realistic. You may need a little bit longer. So understanding realistic goals that you need to set yourself and the obstacles you need to cross to get to that destination. And I think you mentioned something very, very, very interesting, at the beginning of the podcast about surrounding yourself with the right people. How do you manage to pick people out and know who's right for you and who's not right for you to bring them into your inner circle?
Yeah, I mean, it's trial and error. I mean, I was going to say, I think you've got to surround yourself with people that champion the decisions that you make. Equally, you need to surround yourself with people that realign you and humble you, because I think sometimes you can be carried away in your own thoughts, and maybe few people in your life can achieve that, but make sure that you do. Because I think, unfortunately, in life, it's not a case of every person out there doesn't have your best interests at heart, but ultimately you could find yourself transitioning into a person that they don't recognize, and that's not the person that they invested in. So when you start making decisions that conflict with that, you're essentially taking yourself away from the person that they knew you to be, and that can be a hard thing to process. And so more often than not, when you are trying to achieve something for yourself, rather than supporting you, they become the hindrance. And so it's not a case of judging them for that. I think sometimes you have to create maybe a healthy distance in order to fulfill your goals, because if you don't have those people backing your corner and picking you up when you're down, it's going to make it incredibly hard. You know, in the beginning, my photographer, my good friend Reese, he'd be the first to tell you a lot of these challenges I kind of took on my own, and it was just purely down to a resilient mindset. Whereas the challenges of recent, had I not had the team in place that I had, would I have completed it? I could truthfully say no. I needed each and every one of those individuals, whether that be for the knowledge that they have, or the emotional support that they could offer, or the psychological state that they were trying to almost, I guess, for me to adapt. You know, each of them were just so unbelievably instrumental, or even just their energy. You know, I came to realize that in my training there were a few occasions where the training was just too serious, you know, and I just wasn't being fulfilled or enjoying that process. And we can't always keep that intense mindset. And so, you know, it is just a case of trial and error, and just try and expose yourself to someone who has exposed themselves to as many different realities and opportunities as possible. The more knowledge they have, the more you can inherit.
Definitely. I think, like, for me, one of my favorite quotes is knowledge is best shared. And I think it's not about knowledge being powerful, it's about sharing the knowledge that you have with others to inspire them to greatness. Because if you can inspire as many people to greatness as possible, that would be a huge legacy than you actually sounding very knowledgeable on a podcast or on a Instagram reel or on a YouTube video. For me, I want you to be able to learn, and I want to simplify learning for you, so you don't think it's a complicated task for you to achieve the desired results. So, you know, it's amazing the things that you are doing. What are the things that you think you need to stop doing and you need to start doing?
I need to process the things I've done.
Yeah.
I need to celebrate the successes more. And I need to be more patient with the process. You know, I think I probably found myself caught up in a cycle of feeling the desire to rush into the next thing. And I think the reality is if I wish to have a healthy or a sustainable journey in this, then it is about timing. You know, when you look at yourself and the competitions that you do, you don't remain competition ready throughout the year. You're obviously in great shape throughout the year, but it wouldn't be effective to retain that. It would actually become probably quite detrimental to your health,
detrimental
right?
To my health.
And it's the same with the level of intensity that I put myself through. You know, I found now that it's really important. It's really important to give myself that downtime after these challenges. I think not just necessarily from the psychological, but the physical too, because otherwise we end up just chasing something, and really what is the meaning of that, to be honest with you? So for me, it's about having that fulfillment outside of running. And you know, that's what I mean about connecting with people. Like, if I'm not working on myself, I absolutely love working on other people, because there's a lot of mistakes I've made, and those individuals need to make those mistakes for themselves. But if I can make that process more effective for them, then that makes me a happy person.
I think a lot of the stuff that you talk about the impact that your decisions and the things that you do have on others to inspire them, and that's really, really good. You know, so who inspires you on a day-to-day basis, and who has been the biggest inspiration in your life through business and personal life?
Yeah, my daughter has been the biggest impact in my life since the day she was born. You know, for me, I am not a conventional parent, but the role model that I wish to be is ultimately, if I want her to fulfill her dreams and strive for anything, then I want to be able to showcase that to her. For me, you know, the sensitive topic of mental illness, you know, I want to showcase to her that her daddy struggles with it, but is making the most of that opportunity, you know, so that she feels more at peace if she's ever exposed to something like that. And she will be at some point in her life. I think my parents play a massive part in that, wanting to repay them for the sacrifices that they've made and, you know, ultimately for them to be proud of me. You know, I think the people that I'm constantly exposed to, Bud, you know, I every day meet people from different walks of life who are facing different forms of mental or physical adversity. And it's just phenomenal to see the journey that they're on and what they are doing with it. You know, Tano, my best friend, who had a motorbike accident and was paralyzed from the waist down, you know, gave himself 10 minutes to cry before he basically did a call to action, which was, you know, to prove the odds wrong that he would walk again, and he now is. And so, you know, he will never walk the same as you and I ever again, but just his attitude to life and the lives that he's positively affecting on a daily basis, because his approach to it, you know, is just such an inspiration to me. You know, what we have to do is just really reflect on what is going on in our life. Right now, I could be sat here going, I struggle with my anxiety every single day. I have a fear that depression could creep back at any point, and that could consume me. But at the same time, I am so blessed to wake up and have a fully functional body. I can walk anywhere, I can run, I can lift weights, I can pick my daughter up and hug her, I can give her a kiss. You know, I can live as active a life as I want. There are individuals out there that would do anything for that. So it's not a case of undermining what you have. I think it's just appreciating what you do. And sometimes, you know, we talk about comparison being the thief of joy. That's right to an extent, but at the same time, sometimes by comparing your situation to another can be that reminder that actually life isn't that bad.
Yeah, life isn't that bad at all. And I think I want to say a massive thank you for your honesty and sharing your feelings and thoughts in regards to, you know, depression and anxiety. I think something that we all suffer with, and, you know, the definition of anxiety is the fear of the future, and, you know, depression is obviously us kind of like looking at our past and comparing it where we would like it to be. So I think thank you very much for sharing that with me. But tell me more about your daughter. What's your daughter's name, age, you know, because that's what I have more of an interest in, because you know, I know how passionate you are about her and how much time you spend with her. So tell me more about her.
So her birthday was actually yesterday, so she's just turned 7, which is crazy. Her name's India, and you know, she's just such a beautiful little thing. And you know, this process and journey of being a parent, you know, there is absolutely no right or wrong. You know, there's constant question marks around how you do things, you know, and I guess again, in comparison of like other parents and, you know, maybe the approach that they have to parenthood, you know, it's such a beautiful thing, and it really is a love like no other. And just seeing her evolve each year is just such a special thing for me. Every year on her birthday, I post like a reel, which is just basically like a montage of clips of like from when, you know, we were in there looking at the ultrasound to, you know, the present day of her being this grown up little thing. And it's just such a beautiful journey to be able to reflect on. And, you know, there are so many moments in my life where I've done these challenges and she's played a part in it. Although she doesn't really understand what her daddy does, you know, something that I take great pride in is that as she gets older, she'll know that she played a massive part in it. You know, when you look at, you know, my book right there, you know, it's dedicated to my daughter, you know. And when I found out I was going to be a dad, Bud, I'd just broken up with her mother, and that was a really testing time for both of us. I think it was the right decision to make, you know. And then 3 weeks later, I found out I was going to be a dad, and I was very young. I was 27 years of age, and it changed my life forever. And I just remember being this young adult who was absolutely petrified of what the future had in store. And yet I look back on it now, as I said, with reflection, and it was just the greatest gift that was ever given to me. I just didn't know it at the time.
I mean, you spend quite a lot of time with your daughter, India, and, you know, kudos to you for that. And if someone's out there and they're thinking about breaking up with their husband or their wife and they're worried about the kids, how do you find co-parenting with your ex-missus and India spending most of the time with her and some of the time with you? What advice would you give in regards to co-parenting?
The biggest question is, what makes your child the happiest? because the child comes first before anything. And I think the sad reality is with any breakup is that it turns bitter, it can turn hostile in some cases. The child can be used as a pawn, and it's all to the detriment of the child. You know, we have an opportunity to break the cycle. You know, her mother and I are a formidable team. We've always put our daughter first. She lives in 2 very healthy and happy environments. And, you know, the child that she's grown, or the little thing that she's grown to be, is testament to that. You know, it's a very difficult thing. You know, somebody, as I said, who came from a broken home, you know, I saw the implications that came with the other side of the spectrum. And as an adult, I had an opportunity to break that cycle, although it absolutely broke my heart that, you know, we couldn't offer our child the home that we wanted it to be. Ultimately, the agreement was in place that actually it was probably better for us to not be together. You know, we did actually get back together for a year, and then both amicably the second time decided that it was probably best that we do it differently. You know, and she now lives in a home with a stepfather and 2 beautiful brothers who I have a great relationship with. And, you know, I see my daughter all the time. It's not even like a part-time thing. For me, what I've come to realize as a parent, it's not about money or materialism. It's about being present. Don't kid yourself that you're giving them this life. Of course, education is key, and giving them the freedom to have these opportunities is important, but just being there with them and for them to be seen and heard is the most valuable thing.
I love that. So what are the things that you do on a daily basis to be present
with her?
Yeah,
you know, it's just,
and with yourself as well, in regards to just being like present. Because I think for me, you know, there's loads of places I've traveled to in the world that I probably wasn't physically, I was there, but emotionally and mentally I was somewhere else. So what are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis with your daughter and with yourself to remain present at all time?
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about these podcasts is about being honest. You know, I'd be lying if I said to you that when I have my daughter, I'm completely present, because I'm not. There's several times where, you know, my child, Indy, will pick up and be like, Daddy, you know, you're on your phone. No, my problem is that I am a single parent, and so unfortunately my work is it can cross over, and so there are times where I have responsibilities that I have to fulfill, and sometimes that means not being present with her, and that's something that needs to be improved. But you know, with the situation I find myself in, sometimes it's really it is hard to overcome that hurdle, but that's something to be worked on. For myself, that's still a process. You know, am I completely present with everything I do? No, I don't think I am. But you know, the thing is that don't be concerned by that if you find yourself in a similar situation. I think it's such an asset to have the awareness of that, and with that you then have the opportunity to rectify it.
I think just being aware of not being present in that moment you're present. You know, for me, when I'm sitting at a dinner table, for example, and I'm sitting there with my best friend, I found myself doing this yesterday. We went out for lunch in a beautiful restaurant, beautiful surrounding in Mayfair, and I was on my phone. You know, I haven't seen my friend for about 3 or 4 weeks, you know, and I was spending 10, 15 minutes on my phone, and I realized what I was doing. So I said, right, well, put your phone down for the next 15 minutes, don't touch your phone. So that's me acknowledging what I was doing and being present in the moment. So I think you talking about your mobile phone and your work crossing whilst you're with your daughter, the moment your daughter notices it, or you notice what you're doing, then you're back in the room. You're back in the room. You're now being present in what you're doing, the engagement with your daughter, playing with toys, talking to her. And that's very important, because kids are very clever. You know, the things that you think they may not see, they will definitely see. So in regards to that, you know, it's all something we all need to work on. And I want to ask you another question before I go into your book. How do you maintain a winning mindset against all adversity that you faced so far within your personal life, break up with your ex-missus, and obviously coming from a broken home? How do you maintain that winning mindset?
I think just take each day as it comes. In all honesty, you know, I think you just have to remember the why. I think the why is just the most valuable an important thing. I think if you understand your reason for what you're doing, that will just drive you to overcome anything that you face in life, and also be your biggest motivation. And that's not something that can be manufactured. I think that's the problem. Sometimes we might not have one, and we try and position ourselves that we believe that this might be the reason we'll do it. If it's not authentic, it's not going to last very long, because I think the more you strive, or the further that you push yourself, the deeper and the tougher it's going to get. And so I think with reflection, you know, it has to come from a very deep rooted place. You have to feel it in your heart in order for it to drive you.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think for you to be successful, you have to go through adversity and hurdles and cross those hurdles and the daily things that you're doing. Do you think your physical challenges that you do and how you overcome those challenges help you in other aspects of your life? Meaning that, I'm going to go back to it, this 76 marathon in 76 days, you know, that's just ludicrous. Has that helped you with that winning mindset in other aspects of your life, knowing that you've done something incredible like that?
Yeah, I'm 100%. I mean, if you can achieve, and I want to make it very clear to anyone that's listening to this, you know, you're 1,000 steps a day, getting out the house, going to see a friend, you know, being consistent with your eating, you know, being able to read a book, running a 5k, it's all relative. That to you is my 76. That's just because I've exposed myself to that. So don't be making comparisons. You know, what I do is you know, that probably won't even stimulate or relate to a lot of people, but that's just what stimulates me, right? And I've forgotten what my trail of thought was. What was the question? Sorry.
Well, in regards to you actually what had you meant, like you're overcoming the obstacles you've overcome in regards to doing 76 marathons, because
and the knock-on effect. Yeah, and I think, you know, the reality is with something like the 76, with any challenge I've ever done, I think it's the bigger picture. For me, it was a case of, in my mind every day, I have a poisonous mindset that I've inherited for some unbeknown reason that wants to cripple me, you know, and I'm several decisions away from it being detrimental.
Yeah.
And so my responsibility is to ensure that I silence that voice in my head. And so whenever I do these challenges, it's that constant reminder that I can and I am, right? I'm achievable. I can achieve anything. And so the knock-on effect that has on my life, mate, not just within the challenge space, but within relationships, friendships, you know, parenthood, career, you know, whenever you question yourself and go, I don't know if I can do that, you reflect on these moments and go, I know I bloody can. And so I think it's really important for people to step out of that comfort zone, whatever that might be, and expose themselves to those sorts of challenges. The more challenges you face in life, I truly believe the better the life you can have. And I know some might not agree with that. Ultimately, you have the choice how you wish to react to something like that. If you're constantly faced with these adversities and you go through life being the victim, which too many people I think in this world do, see where that gets you. That's a negative cycle, we can all agree, with no positive outcome. I've seen too many people in life, though, in the best possible way, where they have faced relentless adversity and they've turned it into something incredibly powerful. Out of respect to her and her family, I'll share the story but not the name. I met a girl with inoperable brain tumours and she was given 5 years to live. And when I met her, she'd already exceeded that time. Now, she had an opportunity to be self-destructive and create a very negative ripple effect in her environment, and instead she chose to live life every single day. And when I turned to her family and her friends and I said, how does it make you feel? They said, we feel the way she does. And I said, well, how is that? They went, optimistic. She wakes up every day with a smile on her face and believes there's another day of life and more opportunity to come. Unfortunately, she did pass away last year, and maybe a bit emotional thinking about it. She did actually pass away, but we're talking many years after the expected date that she was given. And the inspiration that she is to everyone around her, her legacy will forever live on. And so when I see somebody feeling sorry for themselves, of course it's important to process the things that you go through. But when I think of her and I think what she was going through and how she responded to it, that for me, a benchmark was set on how to live life.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, that's an interesting story you've said there. It's we're going to face challenges along the way. That's inevitable. But it's how we react to those challenges that really takes us to that next level, you know. And I think it's important, that story that you share, you've got to take it day by day in life, because I think what we as humans do, and I know I'm guilty of it, which causes me great anxiety, is what does the future hold for me? And I've got this perfection in my head of what the future holds for me, but it's not going down the route that I want it to go down. And I'm looking at how can I change course to get me to the destination that I have in my head of the future without causing myself too much anxiety and depression, you know, which is important. We got to take it day by day. Just like when you start a new training plan, a new nutrition plan, I always say, if you mess up one day, don't be so harsh on yourself. If you miss the gym one day, don't be so harsh for yourself, but never miss twice. So never mess up twice with your diet, never miss twice with your training. Try your very best to stick to it and never miss twice with your nutrition, never miss twice with your training. It's important. And if you do mess up more than twice, pick yourself up, dust yourself off and start again. You know, and that's very important. We got to take it day by day, and that's important. Now I'm going to go on to your book. This is your book here, right here in front of me. And I want to ask you, before you wrote this book, what has been the 3 most inspiring book you've read before you wrote your book? And also 3 quotes that you kind of love. 3 books, 3 quotes.
Do you want my honest answer?
Honest answer.
Don't read books.
You don't read books?
Don't read books.
Oh, wow.
I don't read books. And I think, not because I don't want to read a book. I think this is where people need to listen to this. I think it's about understanding the mindset of the individual. My biggest problem sometimes that I'm faced with is I'm so easily distracted. It's being able to be focused on something. And unless a book is tailored to somebody like myself, you know, I could find myself reading the same page 20 times without even absorbing it. You know, that's just an academic thing. That's something I've always struggled with. On the flip side, though, I think that was one of my greatest assets when writing this book, because I think, how can you be creative and bring something new to the table if you are comparing yourself to others or mimicking the things that they do and say? So for me, I believe I've come into this with a completely fresh take. You know, I was a complete novice when it came to being an author or writing a book, but actually the words came out, and just through natural life experiences, things that I've maybe taken for granted for so many years. And I almost wrote this book for somebody like myself, having gone through the things that I have. You know, ultimately, when somebody is faced with adversity, when they're feeling their most vulnerable, I wanted to highlight the things that can come off the back of that, the wonderful things. And like I've said many times, although the things that I do and have achieved are very much at the extreme end of the spectrum, I think it just highlights that when faced with adversity and affected by things like mental illness in life, you can still go on and achieve remarkable things.
Amazing. What about quotes? Any quotes, even if you don't read books?
I think the quote that I said earlier, you know, the thing that I remind myself of every day is that people will question you. I'll say that again. I think the quote that I said earlier, the thing that I live by every day, is that people don't question you for what you have, they question you for what you do with it. You know, for me, when you talk about mental illness, my narrative could be Joshua Patterson, who had depression and lives with anxiety. Where's the inspiration in that? Whereas my narrative is Joshua Patterson, who ran 76 marathons, and then you and I can sit here and have that conversation about it, and then I can open up to you about the battles with my mental health, which to so many comes as a surprise. It's secondary.
It comes as a surprise to me, and the time that we shared together, you know, I'm not familiar with you suffering from, mental health issues, but it comes as a huge surprise to me, to be honest with you, because you're very joyful, you're a very happy person, and you know, this is kind of common trait of someone that suffers from anxiety and depression, because I'm the same. You know, there's a level of anxiety and depression that I suffer from, but you'll never see it because I numb it through discipline, I numb it through training, I numb it through just being joyful and coming with a blast of energy that's beyond anything else. But deep down, I go to my house sometimes and I'm on my own and I feel, what's this about? Why do I not have my partner here with me? And it feels like I'm questioning everything. I'm 44 years old, don't have any kids yet. Where's my life going? All of that sort of like. So I get it. I get that firsthand.
I think mental illness can be such a taboo subject, but I think, what I would want to say to individuals out there is that, people are drawn to your energy.
Yes.
And although you yourself may not feel great, you can be someone who is struggling terribly with something. But if you showcase to people the fight and the desire to improve that situation, they'll be drawn to that. If you are dictated to by your situation, I think people will start to withdraw from you.
Yes.
And I think that's been the case with me, is that, my struggles, I kind of keep to myself. I'm very expressive about it, but, I don't want that to be my narrative. I want my narrative to be the person who was proactive and made the most of his life. Yes, as I said to you, I struggle with my mental health, but having been exposed to so many different people's realities out there, I still find myself to be in a position that's much, much better off for me personally. And so I think it's just gratitude is a massive, massive thing to have in life. I think just to constantly remind yourself actually how great things actually are, even if it's perceived not to be.
Yeah, that's so important, so important. I think I use the 5-minute journal. It's a simple app every morning, and it really does help me because it asks you the questions. It's self-guided. Give me 3 things that you're grateful for. It's so simple. And then it reminds me every single day of the 3 things that I'm grateful for, and it simplifies it for me because it doesn't take me more than 5 minutes to do. There isn't that barrier there to not do it every morning because it takes 5 minutes. It's like my meditations as well, 10 minutes on the Headspace app. I wake up in the morning, it's guided. I just stick my earphones on, press play, and that's it. It takes 10 minutes, so 15 minutes in the morning. That's my morning routine done.
Yeah.
My 10-minute meditation, my 5-minute journal, and I'm done. So that's so important. To be gratitude is very important. To be grateful of the position that you were in. You talked about your mate having a motorbike accident earlier in the podcast and not being able to walk, and you talked about being grateful for your ability to walk and wake up and be able to run the 76 marathon that you ran. That's gratitude is so important in every aspect of life. I mean, the first thing I do every morning when I wake up is when I step on that floor, I'm like, it's going to be a great day. Because that's the mindset I have before I walk out of the house. It's going to be a great day. I want to make sure I reinstate that to myself, that it's going to be a great day. So gratitude, I can't agree with you more in regards to being grateful for the position that you're in life. And whatever you're facing, remember, it's not permanent. It's temporarily.
Yeah.
Happiness, temporarily.
Yeah.
Joy, unhappiness, temporarily. Anything you're facing is temporary. Nothing's permanent in life.
Exactly, 100%. It comes and goes. The pain, the suffering, the adversity, it comes and it goes. The successes and the celebrations, they come and they go. And I think sometimes you need the pain in order to enjoy the success. It really highlights it. I think there's 2 big questions that I absolutely love, and I ask myself it a lot. One is, does it make the boat row faster? It's a brilliant quote made up by a rowing team. The reality is in life, ask yourself before you do anything, does it make the boat row faster? And if the answer is no, you just don't do it. It's as simple as that. And the biggest one for me is, what do you want to be remembered for? Yeah. I was asked this question once, and I was like, well, on reflection, by the end of my life, I wanted to achieve this and I want to do that. And they went, no. If I told you your time on this earth was going to come to an end today or tomorrow, what would you be remembered for? Now, that question wasn't to freak me out and to make me think too much about the future, so much so that I don't focus on the present, but it just makes me think each day that I live on this earth, what can I take from it each day, or what can I put back into this earth to make it a better place? And so, because time is the greatest gift that we have, but tomorrow's not promised.
Yes.
Sometimes we can focus too much on 20 years or 30 years from now, but like I said to you, the people that I've been exposed to, their time has come to an end on this earth. And so it's not realistic to make each day count, but like I said to you, it's important to take or give something to each day.
Yes.
And that for me is kind of it's transition and changed my life.
Give something to each day is something very important, even if it's something like you pay someone a compliment or you help an individual. Like I've always said, that I'll be a blessed man if I can help one person every day for the rest of my life, even through my social media posts, through my story post on Instagram to show my discipline and consistency with my training. If I can help one person, that one person that I'm helping may not even reach out to me, may just see my post and be inspired by it. If I can inspire and help one person every single day of the rest of my life, I'll be a very, very blessed man. If I'm helping one person a day, 365 days a year, that's fantastic. I'll be a very blessed man. So, it's important. It's important that you give something to the day and each and every single day. But I want to talk about your book. What's your favorite chapter in that book?
I think what we just touched on there, there's two. Rise Like a Phoenix, that's an alter ego that I kind of adopted when I do my challenges. It literally is rising from the ashes. Too often we find ourselves broken, and that can happen more than once. And, like I said, this Phoenix has almost become like this alter ego, which has just lifted me out of so many difficult and dark moments in my life. And, it's not a chapter, but just that final question of what do you want to be remembered for? I think when you look at the 76 chapters or lessons, within that book, I really hope that there is something that you can take from it. And, ultimately, I really want to inspire the individual who reads that to change their life in some way. I mean, I cover such a wide range of topics, Bud, I said, through the exposure of my own experiences, parenthood, relationships, friendships, environment, mental and physical health. There's so many different points there that I think are so important. And, sometimes you might connect with one chapter, you might connect with a sentence or a single word. But it fills me with so much pride to think that I've gone from being this person who almost lost their life and saw no purpose to now being an individual that can proudly call themselves an author, and having written this book. And, vulnerability for me is something that so many men in this world are so fearful of, being vulnerable. And, I think that's one of the things that I want to be remembered for, is that I made being vulnerable okay.
Yeah, it's okay to be vulnerable. I totally agree with you. I think for me, vulnerability is something that I shy away from, even in relationships. There's so many girlfriends that I've had in the past where they haven't really connected with true me because of not allowing myself to be vulnerable in that relationship. And, I think as I've got older as well, allowing myself to be more vulnerable in relationships has allowed me to be more vulnerable in life in general. And I think it's important that vulnerability doesn't mean that you're a weak man. Don't think of it as a weakness. Like you used the phrase superpower. I think vulnerability is a superpower in some sense, because you're inspiring others. Like you mentioned in regards to reading, and you probably have ADHD or something, or dyslexia or something. For me, I suffer from dyslexia, and I'm sure I've got ADHD, because when I'm reading a book, I'll read a book and I'll probably will read a page, and if you was to snatch that book of me and say, what did that page say? I probably wouldn't remember. So I like listening to audiobooks instead of like actually reading the book. So I'm going to ask you the next question. When are you going to turn that book into an audiobook?
Already is.
So I'll be getting it today.
6 hour audiobook.
I'll be getting it today, because I'm going to want to listen to that audiobook when I'm doing my cardio. Definitely that's going to be my next purchase on Audible.
Yeah. I mean, I kept the chapters brief. That was the thing, is that I wanted to create it so that when somebody's reading it, it wasn't overwhelming, that each chapter was incredibly simple, because it doesn't need to be complex,
No.
So, and for someone that prefers to read longer chapters, they're not going to be offended by that or be put off or deterred from reading this book itself. I just think when you look at the list of successes over the years in this space, I think both mentally and physically, I think that's testament to what is possible. And the title "Fortune Favors the Brave," it's just such a powerful meaning and statement, because ultimately you have to be brave in life. Anything worthwhile is going to be difficult to achieve, and that could be anything. And so, it's just whether or not you have the courage to face something like that. And like I said, if you feel like you don't necessarily have that, then surround yourself with the people that lead you to believe that you can. Because I think the biggest regret in life, when your life comes to that end, is to be able to lay or sit there, stand wherever you might be, and reflect on life and think, I wish I'd done this. And I think right now we are in the position where we can. And I think the problem is in life too, bud, is that we get to a certain age and we go, oh, I'm too old for that now. That's nonsense. Until that last breath loses your body, if you have a dream or a goal in life that you want to fulfill, just fucking go and do it. It's the worst that's going to happen. You get there, maybe you come to realise that it just isn't meant to be, but at least you can reflect on that moment and know, I tried.
So important. It's never too late. Like I always say, I'm 44 years old. I want to be in the best shape of my life, physically and mentally.
I thought you were 56. I thought it was that moisturiser.
Jesus Christ, 56.
You know those hydration masks? I thought you were banging those out by the dozen a day.
56? That's an insult. When I say black don't crack. If I look 56, this black man is up completely cracked. No, but like I said, this year is the first year of me wanting to be in the best shape of my life, physically, mentally as well. Because I've always focused on physical fitness over everything. But this year particularly, you know, I've got myself a mindset coach. I'm having therapy on a regular basis. So I really think it's important to get those things right, because when you get your mindset right, and this is called a winning mindset podcast, when you get your mindset right, guys, everything else falls into place. And I want to leave you with the fact that if someone wanted to get hold of your book and also get hold of you, how do they get hold of you?
I think the best way is just social media, just Joshua Patterson _JP. Just reach out to me on Instagram. You know, I do that myself. Some might have a manager of sorts. You know, I'll see that message, and you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think it's I admire it. I think the honesty, the bravery to even do something like that is an amazing thing. And you know, ultimately, like I said, you're never too late to start something, and you need to ask yourself that question: are you happy with the existence you have on this earth? And if the answer is no, and you want to do something about it, I mean this, buy this book, reach out to me, and let's start something.
That's amazing. And in regards to people reaching out to you, what's the biggest advice you can give to young men out there who have suffered from depression, who have suffered from anxiety, who wants to be an entrepreneur at the same time? What are the biggest advice you can give them, some of the obstacles that you face and overcome?
Use it. Like, you can't change the things that have been done to you. It's not fair. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. So I'm not asking you to accept it. I'm asking you to process it, and then I'm asking you to do something about it. I just want anyone that's listening to this, as I've touched on in this conversation already, you deserve to find love and to be loved. You deserve to be fulfilled every single day. You deserve to achieve any goal that you set your mind on. You deserve to become a parent if that's what you wish to be. Don't begrudge yourself of something like that. The process to getting to any of those points is never going to be easy, but the reward makes every fucking bit of it worth it.
Man, you could not have said that any better than what you just said there. I think everything that you've said, I'm not even going to regurgitate it or butcher it, because I'm really good at butchering stuff. But I want to say a massive thank you for coming on. Some of the things that you've said have touched me. I feel like this is another podcast that I'm going to have to actually listen to myself, and make sure that I listen to some of the answers that you've given to some of the questions, because believe it or not, you're a massive inspiration for me, you know, for all the things that you've done, physical things that you've done. But now knowing that, you know, the honesty that you've shown on this podcast with suffering from depression and anxiety is something that I can relate to firsthand. And like I said, you know, it's a massive inspiration for me as a man of my caliber to know that I'm not alone with someone who looks as successful as you are on the outside, looks as handsome as you are on the outside as well, you know, thinking the way you think. And so the thoughts are not just down to me as an individual. And I want to leave you guys with this: you're not alone out there, and anything you need and anything you want to become, you can do. But yeah, Josh, thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me on.
Love you having you, man. You've been an inspiration, a massive inspiration for me. And I want to say, carry on doing you, carry on being you. Inspire the generation. That's what we want to do. Let's inspire a generation to greatness, because I look up to you for some of the things that you've done, and I know you have great admiration for myself, and I really appreciate you being a friend.
Thank you, brother. Can I say one last thing?
Of course you can. Go for it.
Get swole like whoa.
Guys, if you like listening to podcasts like this, let me know who you'd like me to interview next. Also, don't forget, guys, share this podcast, because what I really want to do is get this out to as many people as possible. Listening to my friend Joshua Patterson over there talking about mental health, talking about overcoming obstacles. I want you guys to be the best version of yourself. Remember, guys, your best is still yet to come, but least and less most, let's all get swole like whoa.